Hi, my name is Marie Hopkinson. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, and today I thought I would do a video about living in the flow, about what is it to live in the flow of life, and it's just something I've been thinking about lately. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button below and the notification bell if you like this content and you're interested in knowing more. You can check out the other videos at the bottom. I've just made a new playlist which says start here, and they're the most popular videos, the ones that people find about diet and Chinese medicine and helpful to explain what the channel's about and what I'm good at explaining. So look, I was just thinking about this lately, and it's not something I've thought about just lately, but everyone wants to be happy, right? We all want to live a happy life. We all want to be satisfied, and possibly having what's happened in 2020 with more time to think and less time to do for some people has kind of created spaces in our lives that we didn't have before. Now, I've been actually more busy. There was probably about 3 weeks in March, end of March, start of April, where we kind of had to shut things down, but not completely. I never closed my business. I kept seeing patients, but I was very quiet. People were scared to come out and whatnot. Where I live in Perth, Western Australia, we've basically reopened almost everything, but our borders are closed, so no one can come in from other states. I can't go out. Normally I would travel to Sydney 3 times a year. It's getting pretty boring in Perth. And I think that's why I've gotten on with some other things. So normally I would have a weekend away in another state every 2 months at least, kind of thing, doing stuff for my business and studying and whatnot. And something I recently started getting into was painting art, and that's why I've put this picture in the background here, because something different for the channel for you to look at, except for instead of my ugly mug all the time. If you're not an Australian, you won't know what that saying is, but it means it's just an Australian colloquial saying. So it means your face, your ugly mug. But I was getting into stuff because I was like exploring my creativity. So something else that I do in the other part of my life when I'm not doing Chinese medicine is I've been, I'm a musician and a singer, and I do singing and songwriting and things like that. And as part of sort of stimulating my creativity, I know I was kind of taking a bit of my advice of my own medicine, what I tell other people to do. And something you can do if you're good at something. So this is a psychology principle which was sort of put forward by Martin Seligman in his happiness movement that came out of that, and his studies of how to be happy and how he thinks people, especially if you're depressed, this is something that you can do. Now, I wasn't depressed or sad or anything, but you could still use it, and it kind of has this effect. So if you know what your strengths are, now if you're not sure about that, I'll put a link in the description below. And the one I send a lot of patients to and students to is called VIA Strengths Survey. It's a free survey you can do, just sign up with your email. And you can do that survey, and there's paid things on that website you can do as well. But you can find out a lot about yourself and about who you are and what your strengths are. And what that means is things that you're good at, things that you naturally enjoy. So one of my strengths is creativity. That's not a surprise to me. It's not like, oh, I need to do a survey to find that out. But for some people, they are surprised. It might not be your top strength. It might be something like appreciation of beauty, or you might have a strength of kindness, or just different. There are different kinds of strengths that you have. You can also find this on Wikipedia. There's a book that Martin Seligman wrote with Christopher Peterson, and it's called Character Strengths and Virtues. And I'm just going to read some of those strengths so that you can sort of see. So wisdom and knowledge is one. So within that you've got creativity and curiosity, open-mindedness, learning, perspective, innovation, courage is the second one, bravery, persistence, integrity, vitality, and zest. Humanity, love, kindness, social intelligence. So if that is one of your strengths, then you would really enjoy having people over for dinner, maybe creating a nice meal, and dropping it to somebody's house, doing kind acts for people. Like, just really makes you really shine when you do that, and you love doing that. And I was recently thinking about something the other day, because I think this year has caused a lot of people to have a reflection on life, which is good, including myself, and I was thinking about, what do I really want to be doing in my day-to-day stuff. What can happen is when you've got a business is you get caught up in just whatever you have to do, right? And I don't mind doing that. And I'll spend a lot of time doing things that I don't really, really want to do because I'm very invested in the end result. So I want my business to be successful. I need to learn how to do this. So I'm going to get on and learn how to do it. But sometimes if someone said, if someone said, hey Marie, I'll pay you, a certain amount of money an hour to do this job, I'd be like, no, there's no way I want to do that job. Because the process of doing that job isn't really that enjoyable. It's the end result that I get for that, which is something linked to the success of my business or the net necessity of my business that I need to do that. And it's a little bit different when you're self-employed to when you're an employee. And look, there are some things where the necessity of your employment means in order for you to get your wages, you need to do some of the things that you don't enjoy as much as other things, right, that you do enjoy. And, I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could choose to only do paid jobs for things you would otherwise do for free? Because they're the jobs I enjoy the most, right? And I was talking to someone else about this the other day, and that idea just popped in my head. And I was thinking, this is like this job that, like when I do teaching, for instance, like I love doing it so much because I just love doing it, which is one of the reasons why I've enjoyed doing this YouTube channel, I think, because I don't get paid to do the YouTube channel. And it's only been this year that I've been able to put, apply for the YouTube monetization and put the ads on the channel. Look, you don't get much money from that. Like you get I think I get $1 a day from my YouTube ads at the moment. And look, it's great. I wanted to get to that monetization goal because I want more people to see my content. And I think there's probably an incentive for YouTube to show videos to people that they're earning ad revenue off of those videos as well. Anyway, so I would do this. That's why I love doing it, because I like teaching people. I like explaining it, and I get more out of it than the money, right? Now, you can't do everything for free because you wouldn't have the lifestyle that you want. You wouldn't be able to, even just get on the bus, let alone own a car or whatever. So you need to get some money. And I'm not saying go quit your job and just do everything for free. But wouldn't it be great if the things we got paid for were things we would just do for free anyway, because you love doing it so much? And I think if we can have that goal and that idea in mind, that makes you happy. And that is something like, if you're in a place where you're thinking, I want to quit my job, or I'm not happy in my job, what will I do next? So you're sort of thinking, I don't like doing this, but I don't know what I want to do next. Go and do that character strengths survey. And there's a couple of other things you could do. Like you could go and see a psychologist who deals with helping people understand more about themselves. And you could also do the Myers-Briggs personality test. That's a really good one to kind of help understand you. Now, I don't think these things are definitively on their own. They're not standalone tests by themselves. That's all you need to do. Like, they help you understand about yourself. So I'm not the sort of person that thinks, because you're a certain Myers-Briggs type, you're just stuck in that type, and that's, all you're ever going to be. Because I've done that test twice, actually, in a 5-year gap, and I've changed. 2 of those things have changed for me over that time, because obviously people change and things are different. Anyway, this video was meant to be, it's more of a personal video. It's just an idea and a concept I was thinking about how can we live in the flow. So this does make sense, right? I know some people complain on my videos that it's a bit of a ramble sometimes. They're like, make sense of it, please, Marie. Get to the point. You have to kind of enjoy the conversation to get to the point of this. I think if you are doing what you enjoy doing, you are already in the flow. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing, in the majority of the sense, right? So let's say 80% would be perfect, right? At least half of what you do in your day-to-day life should be things you enjoy, right? You get something out of it and you just enjoy it. I was thinking about this idea before this, but even today I was watching TikTok, and I follow this makeup artist on TikTok, and she was saying that people have commented, you look better since you quit your day-to-day job, and your face looks amazing. And she was saying, this concept of beauty coming from the inside out. And that's part of it. It's like, you radiate it more, like you are vibing it out and you're buzzing it out. Really interesting. I listened to a Russell Brand podcast thing this morning as well, which was like talking about a guy talking about molecules and how we are, rapidly changing our cells all the time, and that shedding, you know, we're actually, our DNA tells ourselves to keep replicating the same way so we don't change our form and suddenly look like a different person. But that we are changing all the time, and we're changing based on who we're around and what we do and these kinds of things, and around different people's biology, right? We're constantly shedding our biology into the atmosphere, into the environment. So there's this flow, that nothing's set in stone, right? So the good news is for people that are in a depressed state or in a place of like, you know, I'm stuck. And I think maybe because this year is a reflective year for people, if you've been stuck at home, you know, like I've got lots of friends in Melbourne that you know, my heart goes out to those people, because like, I just can't imagine how hard it would be being stuck in your home and not being able to move 5 kilometers from your house, and not being able to, you know, like that's never happened before in the history of Australia, where this kind of imposed laws have been on people. And look, for an altruistic reason. It's not just because they feel like it. It's because, you know, they want to save lives by reducing the virus down. But it's hard, and sometimes that hardness, you know, it creates this stagnancy, and you because your flow was like being out and about, and if you're suddenly not out and about, so that could be one of the reasons why some people don't mind being at home inside, or a more extended period of time where they're working from home, versus other people that need people around them. So if you know who you are as a personality and who you are, what your strengths are, you do this character strength survey, that will help you understand, well, this is why I'm really finding this extraordinarily hard, and what can you do about it? How can you help to do that? So one thing I want to ask you and sort of talk about is, where's the flow taking us, right? Where is the flow of life taking you? And how would you answer this question? How will you know if you're not aware, if you're not in tune? Well, I think one of the things is to ask yourself, like the question I just met, the idea I just mentioned about what would you do for no money that you could just do. Like, let's say all your bills were paid and someone said, I'll give you $100,000 to live on, you know, so you've got enough money and your mortgage is paid, your rent's paid, whatever. So you've got the shelter, you've got your car and your vehicle or whatever you need. Your needs are met, right? What would you do with the 12 hours a day, 8 hours a day, however long you want to work, 5 hours a day? What would you do with that time that you would just do no matter what, right? What are the things you love? And then secondly, what are the things you just get lost in? What are the things you lose time in? So going back to the story that I was trying to tell you at the start, see, there is a rhyme to this. There is a reason to this rhyme, and it does come back full circle. And that makes sense, and it's no pun intended that this is a video about flow. So this picture I've got in the background, right? I'm an artist as well, like a musical artist, right? And I've never done painting. Well, I shouldn't say I've never done painting, but I've never certainly tried this kind of painting. And I was watching some TikToks, and I saw this guy doing this spin art where you put the painting on a drill and you spin it around. I was like, oh, I really want to learn how to do that. That looks pretty cool. So I bought some paints and I bought some stuff, and I dug out my drill and I made a thing and I did some of that, and I was like, wow. And because I was watching some YouTube videos of how does he do this? How does he make this, you know, how does he spin it around? Like, I have no idea. Do you drill the painting to the actual drill itself? Like, do you glue the painting to the drill, or what do you do? And in the end, I saw a YouTube video where someone had made a board that basically goes on the back, and that attaches to the drill, and you screw that into the painting and off you go. And look, I had heaps of fun doing that. And I made some art for my clinic, and I was like really happy about that because it was like springtime and I wanted to make a new piece of artwork for my clinic, so that it would just give it a freshen up look and something different. And then because I was watching that YouTube video, more, and I'm sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you can relate. Next thing you know, more videos were being suggested to me of this kind of thing called flow art, which I didn't know what it was, you know, this making these cells and flowing art and things like that. Well, the next thing you know, I was buying more and more paints, and I was spending more time doing it. And one night last week, I was outside, so I have to do it outside because it's obviously a bit messy. So I've got a nice veranda, and I've made a little painting area, and I can do it all there. And I was doing it, and I probably started, you know, around maybe 6 o'clock in the evening. I'd made lots of paintings and I was thinking maybe I'll stop now, and I came in for a little break and I did some stuff, and then next thing you know, I painted like 10 paintings, and I looked at the time and it was like after midnight. It was maybe nearly 1 a.m. And I just completely lost track of time, and I'd lost myself in the moment of that. Now the reason I was doing the art was to stimulate my brain for the creativity of my music writing, because I want to finish my album and I needed to write some new songs to finish the song album. And I was like, if I do something different that I've never done before, especially knowing myself, and this is where it comes back to knowing yourself. So this doesn't necessarily work. This may not work for you. You may think this is horrible, Maria. I'd never want to do that. Learning something new, I get a kick out of that, because that's part of my strength. So if I look up that little list again where it says wisdom and knowledge, learning is part of that. So creativity is part of that, but also learning, like the love of learning, right? Now you can have a love of learning in different ways. Some people love learning books. They love reading. Now I don't mind reading, and I do a lot of reading. I probably don't love learning as much as I love the doing of learning. So I would rather get a whole bunch of ingredients, watch a video on how to make a recipe, and then give it a crack myself. And I'll often give something a crack as I go. So if you know a little bit, like I know how to make a cake in a basic way, I won't always follow a recipe. I follow a basic recipe, but then I like the creativity of adding things in myself. Or I'm like, oh, I want to cook with Chinese herbs. Let's see what baijiu tastes like. And we'll put that in the soup, and we'll put something like that in the herbs. Sorry, not in the herbs. Put that in my food and create weird little recipes or cakes or things like that out of just different ingredients that you might not normally use, right? Off-label uses. And the reason why that I enjoy that is because that's one of my strengths. So that within those things, you can have really individual applications of that, right? So you might really love learning, but you like writing articles. You just love blogging. You like writing articles. You might love writing books. I don't mind writing. And I'm probably like, 50-50. I'll take it or leave it. Like maybe if you do it more, you might get into it more. There's some things I don't like, right? I hate, I don't hate, but I don't really like maths. Now, one thing I had to use when I was doing these paintings was maths. So I was like, this isn't working. I like the creativity of just giving it a go. And with this flow art, you have to mix a certain amount of paint to a certain amount of like flowy material. And so you're experimenting with lots of different things. But then you need a formula so that you can recreate it. Now I made this, and then I was like, right, I want to make more of this the same. And that's that night I stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning. This was actually the first one that came out. And then all the rest weren't very good. And you don't know until the morning, because sometimes things change, like they might flow off the thing if it's on a slight bit of an angle, some of the pattern's gone off. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I needed the maths. Oh, that's not my strong point, but I can do it, and I enjoyed the doing of it for a greater purpose, because I wanted to make more of the same. And I was like, well, if you know the recipe, you may as well use it. Don't just try to, reinvent the wheel if it's not necessary, right? I guess what I'm looking at is asking you is, what are the things you enjoy doing if you know that already? And if you don't know that, what are your strengths, and how could you utilize them more, or how could you explore those ideas more to find things that you do enjoy? And then creating a life where you're in the flow of things, right? Now, in the flow is a big part of Chinese medicine. And this is where I think, on this channel, lots of people are really interested in things like Qi stagnation, dampness, spleen energy deficiency, like your digestion, how to be healthier, how to live a healthier life. And most of the people watching this video, the subscribers that I have here, are invested in their health probably a little bit more beyond than an average patient, let's say. And certainly I think people that come to Chinese medicine practitioners, they want to help themselves just as maybe more than people that just go, oh, I'll just go and see my doctor and do whatever they say, and I'm not going to question any of that, or look for alternatives or other things I could do to help myself, right? They're just like, oh, I'll take those drugs and that will solve my blood pressure problem. I'm not going to try to lose weight or exercise, or let's say you got diabetes and they're like, well, I'm going to need insulin now, so that's all that I've got, right? So I think having that open-mindedness and that wanting to help yourself. I mean, part of it can be just because you want to save money. You're like, I don't want to go to the doctors all the time and have to pay for medicine, right? Well, fair enough. That's probably a good attitude to have. It doesn't mean you shouldn't pay for medicine when you really need it. But in a general sense, Chinese medicine is about keeping your body healthy. How do we keep our body healthy? By living in harmony with the environment. And that is part of that is going with the flow. So one of the big issues of Western society is qi stagnation. And over the years of treating patients, seeing that pattern happen so often, I've often seen there's this link between people who have qi stagnation, or even myself, if I am not living in the flow, I'm going to get qi stagnation, because where there's no free flow, there's stagnation. That's a saying in the Neijing, right? It's like, if there's no free flow, then there's stagnation, and then there's pain, right? And it could be emotional pain. It could be like the lack of joy could be seen as a pain, right? So if there's no free flow, there's pain, like tong. Tong means pain in Chinese. And so how do we avoid that pain? How do we by creating a flow, by creating a movement? I think it's not really necessarily the absence of, like, removing all the things you don't enjoy doing, but it's finding more time and making more time for the things you do enjoy and the things that do help you live in the flow. And also being aware of when you're in a situation where you've got stagnation, be it because you're sitting all the time, that could create stagnation, because you're having this posture all the time. Like, what about the phones? You know, people with like this posture where you're sort of huddling over. That's not in the flow. So things where you can stretch out, things where you can move, things where you can have more movement, and have that flexibility and have that ability to have that open-mindedness and that creativity. Now, it's no surprise, I guess, that the wood element is related to creativity. And I think even if you did the strengths test and creativity doesn't come up as one of your top 5 strengths, it is a part of our human nature. Every person has aspects of the different 5 elements within us, right? So we all have that wood aspect. We all have that need for flexibility, for that movement, for creativity, for being in the flow, for doing new things, for that open-mindedness and that curiosity. And so maybe this is a lesson or a reminder for people that if you did this strength test and you don't come up with creativity, that is still something that you can use. Now, you can use creativity in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be painting and art and music, and it could be something physical. It could be within your workout. You might have a creative, do something different, have a bit of flexibility. I think flexibility is the key, right? Go a little bit off script, like give it a go, like have a little bit of movement in there. Is there some wiggle room in there, right? And be prepared for a different outcome. So let's say you're making the cake and you know exactly how to make the cake, and you think, right, I'm going to have, like, I know the cake recipe. My mum taught me this old cake recipe, the 2, 2, and 4, right? So this is for free if you like making cake. So you have 2 ounces of butter and 2 ounces of sugar, and you have 4 ounces of flour. And for every unit of that, you have 1 egg. So you might double it and you have 4, 4, and 8. So if you have 4, 4, and 8, then you have 2 eggs, right? And then you put half a cup of milk, or you just add the milk at the end. So that could be a biscuit recipe if you don't use the milk. Now, what I would do very commonly when I was wanting to make a cake, but I wanted to have sugar free, so I don't want refined sugar. So that 2 ounces of butter could be 2 ounces of something else that's not butter. If you want to make it a dairy-free cake, you could try oil, and so you've got to be prepared for a slightly different outcome. Now, just if you use oil, you don't need as much, because otherwise your biscuits or your cake will be very greasy, because it's different. It's a different thing to butter. But the 2 ounces of sugar could be, sometimes I'd use like that same amount of weight in maple syrup or agave syrup, or something else that's sweet, right? And so you can experiment, and now the outcome might be different. So you've got to be prepared, have that flexibility. Oh, this might not turn out. Or, wow, this turned out really well, and I want to hopefully wrote it down and you can remember what you did so you can recreate it next time. I think people who are naturally creative, or who have a strength of creativity, they're used to failing. They're used to things not working out. It's not like they plan or get upset by things that don't work out.
They're all twigs! It was a setup! A setup, I tell you! And you've ruined it! You've all screwed me again!
Right, so you've got to take the losses with the wins, right? It's like when you're writing the songs, right? Not every song I write turns out good. Some of those songs are really terrible. And sometimes you think you've got a good song and then you play it to someone else and they're like,
but nothing as strange as that.
yeah, not really that great. But then you might come back to it later on and you just add one or two things and you're like, wow, this is really... So it's not like you throw it all away right now, because it might be good. Something that's not so great now might be able to become better or more, you know, there's lots of different things, and it's a flexibility, it's a flow, it's things are changing and moving. So look, I hope you are doing well, and I hope you are living in the flow. And I hope this video is helpful to you, and if it is, let me know in the comments below. I want to start a new series called Living in Harmony with Nature, or just living in harmony with nature, as in with the environment in our modern world. How do we do that? And this is one of the things I think is really important, because I see lots and lots of patients with Qi stagnation, and a lot of those people are unhappy in some aspect of their life. Now, there can be things where you're unhappy because you just have something you have to endure that's a difficult circumstance, and you can't necessarily change that. Like, let's say your partner's sick and you wish your partner was well, and you used to have lots of happy, fun times doing really active things together, and now you can't do that. Now, that might be something where if your partner was disabled and is never going to be able to do those things again, you might need to find new ways of doing that. But in the meantime, you're sort of like, oh, I've got to look after this person and I love them very much, but your life just isn't the same, right? And that's okay. It's all right to say, hey, this isn't what I would have, hoped for myself. This isn't what I would have expected to happen. You could get sick yourself. You could have, all kinds of illnesses happen to you that you weren't expecting, you weren't planning for. You might lose your job and you might think, oh, I would love to go and buy lots of painting supplies, what you said, Marie, but I've got no money to be able to do that. And I've been in lots of situations where that is frustrating, right? You think, oh, I wish I could do this, but I don't have the money to do that. How could I make that happen? So I guess what I'm saying is that doesn't mean you've got going to have an absence of happiness, and it doesn't mean you can't live in the flow. It's not about creating a perfect life, because even if you do, something else is bound to happen and probably disturb that perfectivity. But the way to go about it, I think, is to think, where do I want to be? What are the optimal things? Working towards that. And then within the constraints of what you've already got going on, what could I do around that actually helps me? Like the painting, right? What could I do around those difficult and stressful things that I've got to endure or I've got to do that might help me, make sense of life and help me live in the flow. So let me know in the comments below what you do to live in the flow, what works for you, and if you found this helpful and you'd like to hear more, let me know. And if you think there's something I've missed, let me know in the comments. If you've got a question about Chinese medicine, you can pop that in there as well. So I hope you're doing well and have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next video soon.